Streets of Rage began its life back in 1991 for the Sega Mega Drive here in Europe and in Japan, and it was called the Sega Genesis over in America. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. I kind of researched it a little bit. I think it's because there was a rights dispute with some Mega Drive corporation or something. Potentially, it's a little hazy online. I always thought it was something to do with the British band here, Genesis, maybe, I don't know. I thought Phil Collins probably had something to do with it. Apparently not. It's also known in Japan as the Bare Knuckles series, which is a pretty cool name in itself. And this game was obviously ported to the Master System, Sega CD, and the Game Gear, as well as other modern consoles, and always is on Sega Mega Drive collections and stuff like that, which is really cool. Now, this is a beat-em-up game where you play as Adam, Axel, or Blaze, and they set out to save Wood Oak City from the terror of Mr. X and his goons. Get used to that plotline, because that's essentially, more often than not, the plotline throughout all four of the mainline Streets of Rage games. But we'll get there. In this first game, however, there are 8 levels, and there are 40 moves spread out between the 3 main characters, which is quite a lot, really, when you think about it. And weapons can be used like knives, bottles, metal bars, bats, and food is used to regain health and etc. And there are some destructible environmental parts too, which was really, really cool. And if I had £1 for every time I accidentally used the special attack at the start of the first level, I would be a very rich man. The soundtrack is also a massive highlight to me personally, and I think to a lot of other people, especially of my age group, and it features a lot of 80s-esque rock and dance themes, which is really, really cool. And I still remember playing this game for the first time with my Sega Mega Drive. I had the Sega Mega Drive 2, and it came with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and a cartridge. I can't remember what it was called, but it had Streets of Rage on it, Revenge of Shinobi, Golden Axe, Columns, a soccer game, and a MotoGP game, I think. If anybody had that exact same cart when they were growing up, please let me know. But gone are those days where we had a cart, well, we had a load of free games come with the console. Those days are definitely long gone. I know we have free games now, but it's just not the same. Then in 1992, Streets of Rage 2 was released and is still awesome. Again, it received the same ports as the first game to everything known to man, and like the first game, it was received incredibly well and is usually regarded as the best in the series, which obviously I agree to a point, but I still really like the first game. Axel and Blaze return, and 2 new characters are introduced in Max Thunder, a tank on legs, and Eddie Skate Hunter, the younger brother of Adam from the first game. Skate was always my main go-to for Streets of Rage 2, and I should have said that Axel was usually my go-to for the first game, but Skate is just really awesome and a lot of fun to play as. Now, this game takes place 1 year after the events of the first game, ironically, and also comes out 1 year after the first game. And after celebrating the defeat of Mr. X, Adam gets captured by Mr. X and the gang, so it's a rescue mission this time against Mr. X. Now again, I'm not going to go too far into it, the gameplay is just like the first one essentially, and has wicked soundtrack, and there's just a bit more flashy animations here and there to make the game, well, just even more awesome. And they just, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and that's essentially what Streets of Rage 2 is. But then we move on to 2 years later to 1994 for Streets of Rage 3. Released to good reviews, I personally I like Streets of Rage 3 the least. I'm gonna be honest. Its music isn't as good in my opinion, and I'm not a fan of the change in the art direction. It also received the usual ports, the same as the other games as well, and it is the same gameplay to a point, the same fighting and moves as the other 2 entries in the series, with Axel, Blaze and Skate returning from Streets of Rage 2, and a new character called Dr. Zahn, a robot for some weird reason. And Mr. X returns yet again, and the gang have to stop him, so Like I said, more Mr. X. We love it a bit of Mr. X, but the gameplay is still, it's fine. But, you know, the plot is bigger in the third game than the last two, and the levels are longer, and the gameplay is a little faster. But I personally don't think it's better than the first two. I think Streets of Rage 3 is a little more of a notch down, if you know what I mean. Now, of course, we fast forward to 2020 to the release of the most recent Streets of Rage 4, and this one released on everything known to man, including phones. Now, I actually really like Streets of Rage 4. It was incredibly well received in general, and has an amazing art style that really pops. I had a great time playing it couch co-op with my daughter, and we played through it and we had a great time. The story takes place 10 years after Mr. X's death, and the new gang led by the children of Mr. X are wreaking havoc on Wood Oak City. Again. So Axel, Adam and Blaze return for the fourth time, as well as Adam's daughter Cherry and Dr. Zan's apprentice Floyd. A DLC pack does add another 3 playable characters too, so you've got quite a lot to work towards in this one. The combat is still awesome and enhanced with a new art style. There's also a new combat system which is just wicked, really cool. There is of course the usual co-op, like I mentioned, playing through it with my daughter, and of course that's in all 4 games, so I know I'm only mentioning that now, but I think it goes without saying that it's an arcade game on a Sega Mega Drive. You're going to have co-op. I think that kind of speaks for itself. Now, with Streets of Rage 4, there is a story mode, and after you beat the levels and such, you unlock them for the arcade mode, which is really cool. Now, apart from that, there's also a boss rush mode and a battle mode, so they did pump a little bit more into this one. And there's also the option to have the retro music, which you should always take, in my opinion, because the music on the old school games are really cool. It's possibly my second favourite Streets of Rage to the original game, which of course holds a special nostalgic place in my heart. There are rumours and whispers on the horizon of a new Streets of Rage, but we shall see. It's been 4 years since, well, nearly 4 years since the release of Streets of Rage 4, so, you know, we'll just see what happens. But I just have no end of epic, fond memories of replaying through, especially the first game on the Sega Mega Drive, because of course, growing up in the 90s, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't get games all the time. I kind of stuck with the same games for an entire year and really only got a new game at Christmas and very occasionally at my birthday. So I have a lot of great memories with the Mega Drive. I think I want to make a video on the games I had on the Mega Drive, so you can see the sort of games that shaped me as a gamer potentially. But I just have nothing but fond memories of Streets of Rage and of Streets of Rage 2. Like I said, Streets of Rage 3 gets a little iffy, but Streets of Rage 4 is damn awesome and so much fun. But please let me know in the comments down below if you have any awesome memories of Streets of Rage, or if you're someone that's never played the franchise before. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good beat-em-up series. And as always, thank you very much for watching.